Courtier City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
G'day and Swaddy Carb. Well, today we had a presentation which really made us think, because it was about a very hot topic at the moment, artificial intelligence, presented by this artificial intelligence professional, Mikael Lindback. So how would you actually define artificial intelligence?
Well, I mean, artificial is a word that we've been using, and basically you can say artificial is fake, right? But actually what it is that it is a machine that is fed information and that can use that information to produce some type of result. And that is basically the artificial intelligence that we have today.
Because one of the big breakthroughs is really this ability to understand languages.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's actually called large language model in the background. It's not called AI. And that is what it is. It is understanding the words that we humans use, understanding the pictures that we have, and sometimes understanding video.
And that's why we can sort of have a conversation with it, right? Where we can actually feel that we are, typing in a question, and it's like getting an answer from a human being because it understands the language.
Well, I would correct you a little bit, because if that would be an answer from a human being, we would get a more diverse answer. Right now we are getting an answer that is derived purely from the data that is available for this AI, meaning you're actually talking to a child. So be careful, what you say and what you get back is something that you have to interpret.
Yeah, well said, because I used it once to help with the title of a talk, and once to help with the title of a subtitle of a book. And I said, what would you suggest for a subtitle of a book about blah, 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 blah? And it suggested a subtitle, and it suggested a word which I wouldn't have thought of. And I thought, I can use that word, that's a good word.
Yeah, and many times it's interesting what you can get out of when you write things, but as I mentioned, you have to be really careful also to understand that what you're getting back is not derived from a human consciousness. It's derived from a bunch of books, you can say, all the information that we have online.
Yeah. And it's learning every day and every hour and every minute from the questions and the amount of information it's getting.
I mean, it's similar to a human being in that case. It's basically storing information and can then utilize that information. Similar to our human beings, we can use the information that we know to understand something and explain about something.
Yeah, because one of the things that came up is fears around AI, because, visions of HAL on, 2001 A Space Odyssey and, Sarah Connor and, all those sorts of things. So you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I mean, today what we call AI does not have a consciousness. AI doesn't have any feelings. The AI cannot ask them itself, like, why am I doing this? No, it's still us human beings who are telling this machine to do something a little bit more complex than before, but still the same thing. We are telling machine to do a job.
So it's unethical in, unethical out, sort of.
How do you mean unethical?
Well, if you ask, what's the best way to murder my wife and get away with it? It wouldn't have a judgment call about providing you with possibilities.
No, because it's not a human being, and I want to emphasize that. We are human beings, and we are actually much better than artificial intelligence, honestly.
Well, sometimes worse, though, occasionally.
Sometimes worse. But I mean, we are human beings. We have a lot of more aspects to what we think and what we do and how we make decisions than an AI. AI is a reader of books, basically.
I have to say, at one stage, somebody asked something about, would robots control us? And you talked about that. Would they tell us what to do and make us do things we didn't want to do? And I leaned over to the guy next to me and say, is he talking about a wife?
Exactly. I mean, there are many perils in this world, and wives might be one of those things that is a peril. But are we really free to do whatever we want today? I would say no.
Yeah, we are and should be constrained by conscience and laws and all sorts of things. So one thing we didn't really come up with was this idea of artificial intelligence companions, like sex robots and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a future. It's going to happen because there's profit in it, and that's something that's going to happen. Is it going to be good or bad? Well, I mean, let's bring on a sense of awareness as a human being. Do I want a wife that doesn't argue or doesn't have any other opinions than me? Some people would say yes, but honestly, after a couple of years, do you think that is funny?
Can you get it? But then you just you get a program update, and you.
Well, I mean, it's still you telling the program what to do. You know, it's like, okay, you can ask someone else to program it for you. Maybe you get an interesting partner, but it's still a machine. We have to understand that.
There's also that possibility of, you know, like you can relate to somebody who's not in the room by sensations, and you could be having sex with the robot, but somebody at the other end could be experiencing the sensations you're giving the robot. Blah blah blah. Anyway, deep subjects, and it really, you know, you could feel everybody in the audience was thinking about these issues, because they are deep issues and they concern the shape of the future.
I mean, AI today and the discussions we have is more actually on a philosophical level. And that is what I try to approach in this speech too, because I believe we have to ask ourselves, what are the pros, what are the cons, like everything else that we do on this planet.
Yeah, I was thinking, I gave a short talk on this book series I'm releasing on the meaning of life, and I was thinking that should have been the talk I gave before this short talk on the meaning of life, because it really made you think, well, what is the meaning of human life? What do we want to do with life on this planet? How are we different from machines?
Yeah, and also to emphasize what I've been mentioning during the talk, that an AI or a machine doesn't have a why. Why are you standing here talking to me? Why am I standing here talking to you? What is the why? That is not a machine, that is a human factor.
It's a good note to end it on. But also, if you haven't checked it out, go and check, type in ChatGPT, and AI will help take you to AI so you can try it out. It is actually quite an interesting tool to use. And one guy in the audience actually talked about how he'd used it to create a grant application that had been successful to the tune of $100,000. So, pretty cool. Yeah. So don't hesitate to use it as a tool to supplement whatever it is you're doing now.
Thank you very much. I agree on that.
All right. And it's a goodbye from me, real live Ren, saying goodbye in Sweaty Cup.
Bye-bye.